Good evening, folks. Welcome back. This is your half-hour call. Half hour, please. Half hour.
Hey everyone, Curt Columbus, Artistic Director at Trinity Repertory Company. Welcome to your half-hour call, and we're sponsored tonight, as we are every week, by our friends at Washington Trust. I have some very, very, very special guests with me here tonight. I have Jordan Butterfield, Director of Education and Accessibility. I have Tracy Allard and David Ryan, both of whom have gone through Trinity Rep's train program. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for your patience. You were part of our technical difficulty last week and no longer. So here we are. David, Tracy, thank you for being here. Jordan, train program. Tell us a little bit about what train is.
Yeah, this program is my heart. I love it so, so much. So we actually, 10 years ago, when I was brought back into the education department, few folks on staff expressed to me that they were really hoping that we would have some programs for folks with disabilities, specifically with autism, actually children with autism. And I had a little experience coming into Trinity Rep working with folks from that population, and I loved it. And so when I had this opportunity, I wanted to make it inclusive. And so we named it Trinity Rep Active Imagination Network, TRAIN. And so the idea was the different stops along the train would be the network, you know, all of the different social service organizations and hospitals and schools that we worked at in Rhode Island were going to be a part of that network. And it really has become this amazing family. And specifically the pictures that you're seeing right now are some from Seven Hills, Rhode Island over the years, which you'll see Tracy and David, younger versions of themselves are in these pictures. But we also have the Autism Project and many other organizations along the way. Now, TRAIN doesn't just work with folks in social service organizations. We actually also work, and we also work in behavioral health schools, which is very cool. I'm at Sargent Rehabilitation Center in Warwick as well. We also work in hospitals. And so those are photos we can't show you because of HIPAA, but every week I'm in Bradley Hospital in the inpatient units, and it is also part of that network. I meet so many young people there and actually end up recruiting them into our programs that are at the theater. And so when you said that we were going to do a train half-hour call, I was so delighted, and you kind of let me kind of choose who I wanted to bring on. And it was so hard because I've met so many incredible people along the way that have changed my life. But I had to pick two, and so I picked two longtime train participants, and that's Tracy and David. And Tracy actually has been there from the beginning, the very first Seven Hills, Rhode Island production that we did back in 2011. It was The Wizard of Oz, and it was on our Dowling stage, and she was in that. And then David joined us 5 years later and has been in pretty much every show since. And actually, David might talk more about this, but right behind him, you can see all of his posters from the shows over the years. So a lot of history here. And I love this program because it is inclusive and intergenerational in a lot of ways. You know, we have a wide age range. David and Tracy are both young adults, but we also have children, and we have adults who are seasoned. That's the way that's what we say now, right? Elders.
I feel like I'm heavily seasoned, but
yes, you are so spicy.
I'm spicy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So TRAIN is just a wonderful network, and sometimes we make plays and sometimes we only have 45 minutes together. So we do improv and we play games and we just learn to play again, which is something that people, especially adults, kind of forget how to do. So
yeah, that's great. Tracy and David, what's the best thing about performing live? What's the thing that you love the most about performing in front of an audience?
My favorite is a part of being a different character, and it's really being a different character in the show, and it's really fun because I like seeing people laughing at my jokes on stage.
That's awesome, David. And you are, in fact, incredibly funny. I've seen you perform a bunch, and yeah, great, great comedian. Yes, Tracy. What about for you performing live?
I think that like when we talk about theater and live performance, I think it gets to this age old question of like, why as people do we tell stories? You know, and it's one, to remember our past and to honor each other and to honor our history and to honor the writers and to honor everything that came before. But I think like David's answer too gets into this. It's to share that too, to share those stories, to remember who we are, to remember the different cultural impact of these pieces, the different things that we bring in as performers, because the whole thing is like a salad, right? We all have all these different things that are in it, and we give that to other people. It's a literal gift that is being given, and there's just something that's almost like magical about it that's kind of hard to put into words, but I think that you know what I'm talking about. I think David knows what I'm talking about, and I think Jordan knows what I'm talking about, and I think people who go to theaters and who, like right now during COVID, I mean, a lot of people are giving themselves to entertainment.
Yeah.
And when we do that, there's something that happens to us that I think everybody has experienced at one point or another.
Yeah. Hi, Flo. That's David's mom, Flo. She's.
I'm sorry, the screen went blank, so he couldn't see you anymore.
I love that you were with us, Flo. You are always welcome in our conversation. Flo's a very, very amazing woman. Tracy, it's so funny. You know that answer is extraordinary and interesting because I remember meeting you when you were like 10, I think is when I met you. How old are you now?
I met her when she was 10 or 11.
Yeah.
I'm almost 22. I turned 22 November 4th. So
I mean, you've grown up so much in the time that I've known you. And theater's really, I think, shaped who you are as an adult person on some level. Is that right?
I think it's hard for theater not to shape people. I think you'd have to be actively resisting it. I think that theater is a huge part of how we learn, but I think as an autistic person, it's a huge part of how I've learned about other people and how to interact with other people. We do something in the autistic community called masking, which is like sometimes when we're in neurotypical settings, like we almost not pretend to be someone else, but we have like this like protective shield that like is almost like an acting persona. So we act all the time, usually not on stages, but a lot of like how I learned what life is like for other people is through theater. And it's how I've learned like about a lot of things that are respectful too, like what is respecting other people, what is being respectful culturally, what is being respectful to history, what is being respectful to perspectives that I don't have as a person. And I think that also working with other people, you know, is a huge part of that, because I think for a lot of theater artists, making friends is hard, but I think it's really great to just work with other people, because there's something that happens in the process of collaboration that you learn a lot from in general when you work with different people. And when every time you work with a different combination of people, you get different experiences and different stories. And even if you were going to tell the same story, if you tell it with a cast of different people each time, you're going to find something a little bit different.
Yeah, that's awesome. Amazing. David, what do you think you've learned by being involved in all of the plays? What are the things that you've brought into your life and your life as a student from being in the theater?
Well, from being in a big theater like two-pack theaters.
Yep.
Because I like to play called the Christmas Carol with Uncle Scrooge and stuff.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, David, you're like setting me up for this. This is perfect. We're going to play a clip from the Christmas Carol that both David and Tracy are in with Joe Wilson Jr. as Scrooge. So Peter, let's run that clip and we'll get to see David and Tracy performing on the Trinity Rep stage.
Oh boy. Excuse me. Excuse me. Well, yes, I mean, no, I mean, will you sing? I would love to hear you sing.
We don't do private performances.
Well, you don't do private performances, but they're all here, aren't they? There should be singing. Oh,
Okay.
all right. Thank you.
Hit it! You gotta sing when the spirit says sing. You gotta sing when the spirit says sing. You gotta sing, you gotta sing, you gotta hold, you gotta sing when the spirit says sing. You gotta shout when the spirit says shout. You gotta shout when the spirit says shout. When the spirit says shout, you gotta shout right along. You gotta shout when the spirit says shout. You gotta hold when the spirit says hum. You gotta hold when the spirit says hum. You gotta hold when the spirit says hum. You gotta stop when the spirit says hum. You gotta stop when the spirit says hum. When the spirit says hum, you gotta stop right along. You gotta stop when the spirit says hum.
My turn. I don't do private performances. Just kidding. You gotta shake when the spirit says shake. You gotta shake when the spirit says shake.
When the spirit says shake, you gotta shake right along. You gotta shake when the spirit says shake.
My turn.
You gotta sing when the spirit says sing. You gotta shout when the spirit says shout. You gotta hold when the spirit says shout. When the spirit says sing. When the spirit says sing.
Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. So Jordan, what was the group? Just the train group?
Yeah, so that particular production of Christmas Carol holds a special place in my heart because I actually got to assist Angela Brazil and Stephen Thorne. I was their assistant director, and I got to work with a lot of the community groups. And that year, Angela and Stephen's idea was to take that part of Scrooge. He's that secret and self-contained and solitary as an oyster. You know, he just doesn't want to let anyone in. His nephew, you know, no one can get into to reach him. And so they really wanted to express that the community finally letting them in is part of the story. And so that scene, which was after his, you know, waking up on Christmas Day, was amazing. And so each I think, oh gosh, I can't remember how many community groups, but there were a ton. And so
There were 18.
18, yes. And so Seven Hills, Rhode Island, one of our community partners for so many years through Train, I reached out to them and they were like, yes, we already have a drama group. You direct it, so you know, doy. And so we assembled a small group. It was tough because usually our casts, David and Tracy know this, are like 25 people. And so we had to just pick a smaller group that could fit on that stage. But it was so nice, and we had a lot of. Jared was also in it, who has been with like Tracy in every production we've done for Train through Seven Hills. And so we're a lot of beloved folks. So it was it was a really wonderful moment for me as a teaching artist to also like bring together the art form and have my students get to perform on the main stage. But funnily enough, many of them get to once a year because we actually, Trinity Rep hosts a production once a year for the Seven Hills Rhode Island Drama Group. So that's a lot of the photos that were played at the beginning are on sets from beloved shows, you know, like Christmas Carol or other ones. Yeah.
So I want to remind folks that if you have any questions for Jordan, for Tracy, or David, please put them in the chat and we will answer them at the end of the show. But we'd love to take your questions about this program, about anything. Hey, David, what's your favorite character you ever played on stage? Do you have a favorite? Or do you have a couple of favorite characters you've ever played?
Yeah.
Which one?
No?
The T-Rex in Running Out of Time.
Yes.
wait, tell us about what the character is, David. What does the T-Rex do?
He tries to roar with the T-Rex like Emily was the T-Rex and I was the T-Rex.
Yeah, that was a Jordan Butterfield original production, and it was a time traveling piece. And so we obviously, there was a tree that if anyone passed through the tree, they would time travel to a different period. And I obviously needed some talking T-Rexes. So I had, so David was one of those excellent Tyrannosaurus Rexes. I have many dinosaurs in plays that I write. Clearly,
and as one would, right?
Yes.
I think that's basically, yeah. Tracy, do you have a favorite character that you've ever played?
I'll be honest with you. I have a really special place in my heart for the Wicked Witch of the West because she was the first character I played at Train. She was also the first character I played in a production that was meant for neurotypicals where I was like a disabled person and I had gotten the role. And, you know, I didn't understand, like when I was younger, I'm like, oh my God, I'm a villain, what? But as an adult, like you discover things, you know, about the complexity of people. And also like you relate it to other different pieces of text and you find like what that means to you. And so I just have this really special place in my heart for the Wicked Witch of the West now, which, you know, people might be like, oh, that's weird, but I don't even care. I'll keep my little witch shrine too. Yeah.
Who doesn't love to play a villain? I mean, David
Yeah.
just said the reason that he loves the T-Rex is because of the roaring.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's part of it, right? It's really fun to play a character that has that kind of fullness to it. I think it's amazing. Jordan, do you have favorite shows that you've done with Train?
Oh, it's so hard because we have done some adaptations of books. We've done some originals that I've written, or actually some of my former students have taken up the pen, which was amazing also. That was so really fun to have my students take up the mantle. But some of my favorites are, I really loved our adaptation of Charlotte's Web. That play in the book means a lot to me. I think also the underestimation of people is seen in the underestimation of like the animals in that play. I kind of wept every time I was like watching it, which is strange as a director to just be like, yep, okay, yes, go in from stage. But I was still like a hot mess. But I love that. And how all of those characters came together and supported each other, and it's a melancholy sweet play. So that one, but I also really loved the bizarro, thinly veiled political satire that I wrote 4 years ago, which was called Race to Mount Olympus. And fun fact, it was Greek gods and goddesses in a sort of election for like
Political contest, shall we say?
Yes. There was Hades and there were other, anyway. So that was fun. And actually it was so fun that this year our coordinator at Seven Hills, Jonathan, actually ended up writing a sequel, and we're doing Running from Mount Olympus. And
Awesome.
we're going to make it into a movie because we're doing it over Zoom. So it's going to be a movie released in January. So that one, I'm glad that one's coming back, or like something, you know, reminiscent of it is coming back.
So both
to
David
screen.
and both David and Tracy will be in that?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
great. I can't wait to watch that. That's really fun. David was saying earlier that he's looking forward to that. Tracy, you and I got to work together on Middletown, which I directed at Trinity Rep. There you are playing Sweetheart. And you were such a remarkable gift in that production. We all fell in love with you, and being able to work with you was just so incredible. But you and I had lots of conversations about that character. You were the first person with autism to play that role, right? Because they'd always cast neurotypical actors in that role before. Talk to us a little bit about representations of disability that you see on stage, and how you think about that and your work as an advocate.
So a lot of what I do is trying, because a lot of where disability type stuff is going is talking about representation, because we know how important it is, especially for kids, to see themselves represented. And I think it's wild because I ended up like going back and looking through to see if anybody had done it before. I forget why, to see who the first person who was like openly autistic and like who claimed it and owned it was to perform on like a regional stage in America. And I realized like I was the first person who was openly autistic to perform on a regional theater stage, at least in America.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, that's wild.
Yeah.
Right. Because you would think that like after all, you know, all this time that we would have done that. But, you know, there's this beauty in representation, right? And because I don't think personally that there's a lose in representation ever, for the reason that there's certain things that happen when a person is represented, right? One, you get different perspectives on stories.
Yes.
Right. For example, when I did Sweetheart, one of the things that like I noticed is that like as an autistic, we tend to talk very associatively, which means like we connect things in our heads that are may seem unrelated to other people but are related to us, rather than like if we're talking about a train, when does the train come, where does it go, what's the station, versus if you're having that conversation with the autistic, ooh, trains, Thomas the Tank Engine is a train, I like the color blue is the color of the ocean, that's great, I like fish. And that's, you know, kind of how you know, that's how my mind works anyway. I don't know if it's true for everybody, and I don't think it is, but you know, but point is that not everyone would like be able to pick up on that if they don't have that experience. That might be something that they missed. And I always think lived experience is important because of that. Yeah. You know, and then even like pieces that don't have disabled characters, you still can find like history of it. You know what I mean? Like, I was talking to Jordan about like Crucible, right? If you think about the Crucible, I'm not saying cast disabled, I'm saying cast disabled people as disabled characters, and then consider the stuff that you can uncover when casting, you know, inclusively. Because if you take the Crucible, the Salem witch trials has a lot to do with like disability prosecution too. We just don't we don't dig that up. Yeah. And then also like disabled people in the BIPOC community is another form of representation we don't see at all, and disabled people who are LGBTQ. So thinking about like what can we do for representation, and where are the gaps, and like what kids need to be able to see themselves, you know, because, and what can we uncover in the stories? Yeah. And then from a business perspective too, like untapped markets too, like you're getting people to come in to see themselves, to want to see plays, to all of that. There's this really like, it's very hard to find a lose in representation.
I love the passion that you have for this. And, you know, we certainly feel this way. We've had incredible response to the sensory friendly performances that we've done for Christmas Carol. And I know, Tracy, you've been part of that. Like, there's a lot of positives in, as you say, in making sure that everyone's included. So I love that. I could listen to you talk all night, my dear. We actually just got a question from the chat for David. Hey, David, what character do you want to play in the future? If you think about who you'd like to play on stage, what role would you like to play in the future, and why?
I want to play the Beast.
Oh, yeah.
In Beauty and the Beast?
Yeah.
Why do you want to play the Beast, David?
What?
Why do you want to be?
You want to play that character?
Because I like to sing if I can't love her.
Fantastic.
That song.
No, if I can't love her is
Oh,
what
if
the
I
name of
can't
it.
love her, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And wow, I actually really want to see that.
No.
That would be amazing.
Giving me ideas. That's good.
Yeah, that's incredible. Okay, good. Tracy, do you have a role that you want to play?
Honestly, not off the top of my head. I'm kind of the person who just, it's really hard for me to say no to things. The only time I would is if I'm like, there's this like weird relationship with roles too, where I'm like, where it's like I because of my strong like social justice thing when it comes to disability, sometimes like I have this conflict of like, okay, well, is this a good representation or could it like be hurtful kind of thing? But I think the only role I would want to play is I would love to see more roles in theater for disabled women.
Great.
Or at least more authentic casting for disabled women, because even sometimes when there's casting calls and they're like, well, we want disabled people, they still cast neurotypicals, and it's like, what is this? Yeah. And you know, it's just I would love to see well-written disabled women.
Excellent. We'll have to take care of that for you. I want to take care of the Beast for David, because that's amazing. Jordan, I mean, here we are with these two remarkable young people talking about how theater's changed their life. How are your classes structured? When you teach a train class, what does that look like? Yeah,
I started train and really wanted to make sure that we were keeping to, this is my heart. This is actually our rehearsal room. It's a tiny room in Cranston, and you can see there are so many people and it's so alive. So I like to keep the same structure every week, but add variation to the types of activities that we play. And then we also obviously have a component of rehearsal when we're working toward a final production like we do with Seven Hills. So this happens to be a Seven Hills rehearsal from a few years back. And that's our dear Abby Tilton, who we lost a couple of years ago and miss her so much. And her mom, Sharon, who you just saw on screen, who produced a bunch of these videos kind of behind the scenes. But we're dancing here, but typically we'll start the class with a check-in. We'll go through an agenda that I have written up, because different learners, like to read or like to process things with, by hearing or by reading. And so we will have an agenda review. We'll go into a team builder kind of icebreaker game, which is a great thing for social skills building in the beginning. Really cast bonding time. We'll get to know each other really well. And there are so many friendships that have been so long lasting from this program, from different towns and cities. People are coming, driving from all over Rhode Island too, to get to the rehearsals. And folks still kind of hang out when we have breaks. It's nice to see. And so we have those team builder exercises, and then we go into warm-ups. And I'm gonna, I think you're gonna talk to David a little bit about warm-ups, because he has taken my crown, and he is now the warm-up king. But I do the same warm-ups every class to try to, maintain some consistency, but also it's voice, it's body, it's imagination. And those are the 3 actors tools that we're always activating. And so we warm those up. We do some improv, which I think is essential. I mean, theater is so social. And so getting into, initiating a conversation with someone, even if you're playing a character and like being silly, or it's under this weird circumstance or in a strange location, it is really fun and helpful for actors to have that skill. And also just anybody. I teach improv at the hospital, and I'm working with patients who are in the psychiatric hospital at Bradley, and they're not, identifying themselves as theater people. They're just, in this facility. And I always tell them, you use improv every day. Yeah. You are constantly reacting to the given circumstances, and you're improvising everything you say. You're not waking up with a script in your hand. So improv is super important to the classes and to the social skills building that we do. And then we do rehearsal, or we'll do some sort of, maybe we'll create a 1-minute play. And then we end with like a relax and cool down, kind of like a soothing meditation, because we get so amped and we're playing and we're running around and being so wacky. So it's a nice way to cool down. So it's consistent from week to week, but the different kinds of activities we play and what part of the play we're rehearsing are different. But that's a comforting thing too, to know what the structure is, and just be able to expect what's coming when you go to drama. It's a great thing. And for my students in the hospital, or patients in the hospital, it's also kind of comforting, because it's, a lot of them will recognize me and be like, oh, the drama lady, or they call me Trinity, like that's my name. And right. It's my name. I'm changing it legally. And, it's nice that they know what to expect if they've had me before. So,
well, and so that in this vein, David, anyone who's been involved with Train talks about you leading the warm-ups. Do you have a favorite warm-up or two that you'd want to lead us in?
Yeah.
Stand up and go over here. Stand up over here. You gotta tell them.
All right, sure. I'm gonna get up and do the warm-up with David. I'm gonna do it. I want to see which one he's gonna do.
Which one are you gonna do? Look at the camera.
So the first warm-up we're gonna do is we're gonna stretch William Pike cat, stretch our starting post.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Really get that cat stretch of your back. Yeah.
Oh, David, that's so good. Thank you for doing that.
I needed that. I'm sitting too long. What
else,
else, David?
The second one I want to do is take your favorite crayon out of the crayon box, stick it in your head like a unicorn horn, and draw tiny circles on the ceiling. And then take it out, snap them in half, put them in your shoulders, and draw zigzags. And then you're gonna take them out, and then you're gonna put them in your hips and draw those big zigzags, bring it around town. And you're gonna take them out, and then you're gonna put them right in your knees, and you're gonna draw zigzags in your knees, and then you're gonna take them out and put them in your feet and draw. Fireworks with your feet.
Fireworks?
Yes, fireworks with your feet. Then you're gonna take them out and put them away.
Good job.
David, no wonder you are the favorite warm-up leader. Those are fantastic. Oh my gosh. I love that. Thank you, David. You're a dream. Okay, I've gotten a bunch of, oh my gosh, I've got so many questions. Someone wrote in, Tracy, why is Jordan your queen?
Okay, so first off, Jordan has been like my theater teacher to start, like to boot. So she got me into this. She got me addicted to this. Hook, line, and sinker. Done. And I think part of it is, first off, my favorite set of plays tend to be the ones that she writes. I love that original piece.
Yep.
But I also love that she does this in general, like this program, because it's not something a lot of people do.
Yep.
It's not something a lot of people even think about doing. And they also don't like, it's hard to find places that are respectful sometimes.
Right.
And I love Jordan for that. I love you guys for that, because you guys think about it and think about like how to have people in as equals and how to treat people and talk to people like equals. And that's what I really love about it. And I just love that it's something that Jordan thinks about and has created a climate to think about it and to kind of do like little dominoes of that, because like one little change goes to another. And Rhode Island's a small state, but we have a big population and a huge impact
Yes, that's
on the United States and on the world at large. And that's something that is important not to overlook, but also it means a lot that she started doing this in general, and I owe her a lot. So that's why she's my queen.
Right back at
and
you, Tracy.
That's also why I love this so much, though.
Well, and
too.
Tracy, someone said in the comments, I really appreciate your thoughts on the associative perspective an autistic actor would bring to the table when interpreting a role or playing. So, and then another person asked, Curt, what does train mean to the organization as a whole? And this is one of, I was one of the people that came to Jordan 10 years ago. Because two of my nephews are on the autism spectrum. And so I have people that I love that are on the spectrum. We have company members who have kids who are on the spectrum. We have so many people that I and we collectively deeply love that it just made sense that we would be a place for this population to feel safe and represented and home. And so that's why we've worked for it, and we'll continue to work for it. I mean, there are still barriers to entry for folks into our building. And you had those pictures of beautiful Abby earlier, and Abby was in a chair and it was hard for her to get onto our stage sometimes.
Yep.
And that broke my heart every time. So those are the things we have to fix going forward. I have a question that came for David. David, are you interested in directing or teaching, or are you only interested in acting?
I'm only interested in acting.
Okay.
Although you do teach the warm-ups, I mean, but you're a great actor, so I'm not gonna
All right.
push you in any direction.
Someone else watching was thinking that you'd be a great teacher or director. So, I mean, I have to ask. But you're just all about the acting, right, man?
Yep.
Okay. That's amazing, David.
Man,
Tracy, are you interested in directing or teaching?
I'm interested in whatever I have the opportunity to do. I'm kind of very much of a resume builder, so I like to do what I can so that I have more opportunities to act, direct, teach, write, whatever in the future, because it's the way I see it. I know that there's a lot of great people and a lot of great enthusiasm for programs like the one that's going on in Train, and I love that. And I love when people get excited about it. But I also know sometimes we have to break some walls down to show people, like, you should be excited. Like, we have, you know, we have like all these really cool people who have all these different ideas and perspectives. And David's a pretty good actor. So, I mean, you got to see a little bit about what you're missing out on, friends.
Totally.
But, you know, also like the stuff that we do for accessibility is stuff that like we're not going to be like, well, you can't do it. Like, if you need accessibility, you need accessibility. You know, like accessibility benefits everybody. So
That's right.
yeah.
That's amazing. You've become such a beautiful advocate for your community and for so many people. It's really remarkable. Jordan, why is this work so important to you? Because you're the queen to a lot of people, because you really, this work is important to you, and you're an amazing teacher for typical populations, but you're also a particularly remarkable teacher for this population.
I think that it's important because the folks that I work with are important, and their views are important, and seeing their perspectives in performance, even if it's, like I said, in a hospital wing and no one else will see it but the folks who are in the room. I think that them being able to express themselves and also take ownership of performance. Sometimes I work with especially young people who have fixations on the performance of a character that was done like for a movie or like, you know, on Broadway or something like that. And when we're reimagining it, I always have to say, like, you are what's bringing the exciting part of this production. If we were seeing the exact same performance every year after year of Christmas Carol, that wouldn't be very exciting anymore. And so it's the same with, you know, Train, when we're adapting a beloved book, or it's a character that we know. We did a fairy tale play one time, and those have been done a lot. But what was exciting was those unique personalities were being brought into the space and being able to create those roles. And I think that, so representation obviously is a huge part of it, but also it's just an amazing community that has really let me in. And I'm from Massachusetts, so not far away, but Rhode Island is now my home. And I think that the Train program really was what welcomed me in, what really made me feel at home here. And you know, at the hospitals, a lot of my students are going through the worst time in their lives. They're hospitalized for various reasons, but they are not there for a vacation. It's an incredibly hard time. And when mental health is, you know, really something that is so affected during COVID, especially, but like, you know, has affected so many people, and really young children. I mean, the youngest kids I work with there are, you know, around 5. And then all the way to my adult classes or my intergenerational classes, those folks getting to just play again and like be validated in that you can just, you know, whatever method of communication you have, whether it's vocal or whether you use communication software on an iPad or sign, you know, you can still communicate your voice, and you can still act, and you can use your whole body, you know, whatever body you have, and play. You know, that's amazing to see. And so that's why I love being a teaching artist, but Train specifically, it's because I think a lot of folks in the community are underestimated. People think, oh, well, you can't play that because, you know, you have Down syndrome, or you're like, you know, there's so many misconceptions, and they always put on these incredible performances that are captivating and truthful and funny and weird, you know, because it's something I'm involved with, so it has to be weird. Yes. So it is, like I said it at the beginning, but it really is my heart, this whole group. So
that's amazing. From the chat, we have a very active chat. David, what's your acting superpower?
Ooh.
Using the loudest voice as the beast.
Using
Yeah.
the loudest voice of the beast. Okay, awesome. Tracy, what's your acting superpower?
Either dialects or dramaturgy. I like
I was
research,
gonna say.
and I like doing accents. So
Excellent, excellent. What do you have? What's your kryptonite? What's your weakness? Do you know?
David's superpower is for sure his projection and the deep voice that he has. I love listening to David's like full voice. So the Beast is like a great role. I don't know. Kryptonite is hard.
Yeah, that is a hard one. We'll come back to that. Let's think about that. Flo, you're just off camera and you got a question. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I'm gonna have to bring you on. Has your experience been as a parent with this program?
This has been a really awesome program for David. To be able to go and see him on stage is something I never thought that I would be able to do. From this program in high school, he started participating in the chorus, and he's part of his chorus at the high school. Well, he graduated this year, but he was part of the chorus performance, and it was very, very interesting to see the other kids would assist David to get up because, sorry, they had to stand on stages, and he would stand on the bottom, but he would always help direct the chorus. David loves music and Disney, so anything Disney is wonderful, and he has a fantastic memory. But I've been able to go to some of the rehearsals also, and watching Jordan and Tracy and some of the other kids that have a little bit more experience in this help kids like David, who when he first started out. It's just a all round great program.
Thank you, honey. I didn't mean to call you out, but you got a question, so you had to answer it.
It's okay.
We love that you're here. Jordan, are there other theaters all from our very active chat? Are there other theaters that are doing this kind of work? And I know a little bit that the answer to this question, but I'll.
Yeah, there are. So I think predominantly a lot of theaters that are doing work in accessibility are doing sensory friendly stuff, which we also, started doing pretty much right after Broadway did their Lion King and some of the other series that they had that were sensory friendly. But as far as classes that are specifically for folks with disabilities, like there's definitely theaters that are actually dedicated to like working with actors, disabled actors, and there's also theaters that are or companies, I should say, that have kind of like almost like a best buddies situation where it's like people are paired with like a neurotypical person is paired with a person with a disability. But what I like about Train is that it's we have neurotypical folks are in the space and are invited into the space, but it's really it's for folks with disabilities. It is like catered to meet their needs and they're central, and it's not about someone a neurotypical person like getting volunteer hours because they're working, and that's really important to me. I don't want to speak ill of other theaters. So if you have other theaters that you know of that are doing, I don't know if anyone's doing something exactly like Train. I think there are like versions of it, but I do know that we're one of the oldest regional, like in terms of the Train program and all of the classes that are a part of that. We're probably one of the only, and if not the longest running programs of its kind in the country.
I am constantly, when I go to national conferences and places, am told that what you do, Jordan, is a model nationally for a lot of people. So yeah, it's true. It's true. It's a great program. Tracy, you have another question. How are you so comfortable on stage when anxiety is a struggle?
Oh.
You can tell this person knows me. I wish I knew. I think it's because on stage it's like on stage is work. You know what I mean? It's honoring. It's honoring the work of writers. Many writers were disabled or had mental challenges. So sometimes it's honoring the work of our predecessors. Sometimes it's honoring the work of people who are just cool in general. And other times it's honoring our cast members on stage. And giving the audience something that should show them that we should also be honored like neurotypical actors, that we deserve that same, we should be cast in disabled roles for sure.
Right.
And we should be considered for roles that, and for stories that have any sort of disability theme. But I think that a lot of it is because it's kind of a platform to show people and to show kids too. Like the reason I love theater so much, especially as an adult, is because there are kids out there and kids idolize. It's what they do. They like to see adults in roles and they like to see people who are like them. And it was always really hard for me growing up sometimes not seeing disabled people in films or in theater. And sometimes I'm both really excited that this is something we do, and I'm also kind of sad because there's also a lack of it elsewhere.
Right.
And there's a lack of that disabled casting in disabled roles. So it's kind of like a mission thing, and it's also, I just love this literature. You know, I love stories and I love telling them.
I wanted you to say mission because it is your mission, and it's you are a remarkable warrior for it. David, are you ever afraid before you have to go on stage? Do you have stage fright ever?
Yeah.
No. Okay. You're just confident.
No, he said yeah, but I haven't seen him freeze up on stage. He always.
I've never seen you. You just are so confident when I've ever seen you on stage. So you do get scared sometimes?
Do you get scared
Yeah.
of being on stage?
No.
No, not of being on stage. He does get scared of things sometimes, like loud noises, but not of being on stage, as long as there's no sharp, loud noises. I think I got scared once because there was a cannon that went off.
I was gonna say, my bad. We in the election play that we had 4 years ago, there was a confetti cannon, and we didn't test it before, and it scared the poop out of everyone when it actually went off. And David made me promise that I was never going to have a confetti cannon. I have kept that promise. We are never confetti cannoning again. So.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised, Flo, because David is an incredibly, he comes on stage and it's like it's his home. It's so wonderful to see.
He actually wants to perform in Disney. That's his goal.
Oh, yeah.
All right. We're going to have to call the Disney folks and get them to have him audition, because I think that would be amazing. Hey, so we're going to wrap up here in just a minute. Peter's got just an adorable video to play at the end. But Jordan, thank you for recommending that I talk to David and Tracy. I just love them both. I love them both as actors and as humans, and we're just so lucky to have them in our world. So I really, really appreciate that.
We love you guys, and you know, we love everything that you guys do for us, because it's not unseen. You know what I mean? Like, it's appreciated, and it's appreciated that we have these, you know, classes, and that we have space, you know, for each other, and to appreciate, you know, like, one of my favorite things about Trinity is that it's to like, one of the missions, I think, is for the community to experience theater too. And as a person who loves theater, that's just so meaningful to me and to David, you know, and to Jordan, I think, and, you know, to everybody. So thank you as well.
Tracy, you're the greatest. Thanks everyone for watching. We're gonna play, you have to stay for this video. It's Alice in Wonderland.
It's a trailer.
It's a trailer. It's super adorable. And I'll see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, I think.
Thank you, everyone. Great show tonight. As a reminder, we are off next week. There is no show next week. So we will see you back here 2 Thursdays from now for another 7:30 p.m. half hour. Thanks. Have a great night.